Hello everyone and welcome to my channel, RPG Retro Reviews, where I, Captain Courageous, review old school modules and games and talk about how you can adapt them for your own campaigns. I know I've been away for a few weeks, and while my workload has been heavy, I can't use that as my excuse for failing to produce a video. I've become a little obsessed with Hearst Art's 3D dungeon terrain. Here's a little peek at what I've been working on. If there's some interest, I can do a few how-to videos and talk about how I made some of the more elaborate pieces. I'm especially proud of the LED tiles I've done, and I'm really enjoying working with these sets. Anyway, on to this video. It had been my intention to produce a strictly undermountain review, but as I got more into things, I realized that I would have to do a two-parter, one about Waterdeep and one about undermountain, as these two settings are really interconnected and complement each other very well. So, part 1, this video is a Waterdeep review, and part 2 will be the undermountain review. Also, my descriptions of the city will reflect the time period of between 1356 Dale Reckoning to around 1372 Dale Reckoning, and anything that happened during or after the Spell Plague and the events in the Waterdeep novels will not be discussed until the very end of part 2. So, let's get started, shall we? There has been a lot written about Waterdeep over the years, some of it good, some of it not so much. What I'd like to do is give a brief overview of the city and then point out those products that a prospective dungeon master interested in running a Waterdeep campaign might find useful. Waterdeep, also known as the City of Splendors, is a large merchant city along the Sword Coast in the Forgotten Realms. It is located in the western heartlands of the continent of Faerun, about 150 miles north of Daggerford. As of Dale Reckoning 1357, the city was considered one of the most important on the continent and a massive hub for trade with a population of over 100,000 or more during the peak trading season. It benefits from a natural deep-water harbor, hence the name, wise rulership, tolerance, and open trade from all over the world. It is a true cosmopolitan city. The city itself is divided into 7 sections, or wards, and they are Dock Ward, Castle Ward, Sea Ward, North Ward, Southern Ward, Trades Ward, and the City of the Dead. Castle Ward is at the center of the city. It includes Mount Waterdeep, its castle, the Palace of Waterdeep, occupied by Pergeron, the Open Lord of Waterdeep, Blackstaff Tower, the home of Kelvin Blackstaff Aronson, and the homes of many prosperous Waterdehavians. The Dock Ward, compared to the rest of the city, is dirty, smelly, clumsily built, and dangerous. In the words of Elminster himself, Dock Ward is a riotous, nigh perpetual brawl that covers entire acres, interrupted only by small buildings, intermittent trade businesses, an errant dog or two, and a few brave watchguards who manage to keep the chaos from spreading beyond the docks, the whole lot wallowing in the stench of rotting fish. North Ward is primarily the home of the wealthy middle class, lesser nobles, and well-to-do merchants. The wealthiest ward of the city, Sea Ward, is home to noble families. It features broad streets, wondrous statues, bright and expensive shops, and its own arena, the Field of Triumph. The Southern Ward, also known as Caravan City, serves as the staging, loading, and unloading zone for caravans passing through the southern gates into the city. South, as it is known to the locals, is well patrolled by the City Watch and accustomed to providing newcomers to the city with lodging, information, food, and entertainment. Trades Ward, Waterdeep's commercial section, never truly closes, and work stops only during festivals. By night, candles, lanterns, oil lamps, and continual flames keep Trades Ward streets and shops glowing with staff who sleep by day to sell to those who shop by night. The city's major guilds have their headquarters in Trades Ward, near the businesses they work for or own. The City of the Dead is a huge cemetery and is open to the public during the day and sealed off and patrolled at night. Citizens and strangers who want their deeds to go unobserved operate in the shadows of the tombs. The graves themselves benefit from various levels of magical protection. Some tombs are actually doorways into magical planes, pocket dimensions that cannot support life, but serve as burial zones for unlimited numbers of honored nobles and fondly remembered commoners. The city is also home to many guilds and organizations, far too numerous to mention here, but the major organizations are the Lords of Waterdeep, a council of 16 members who hide their identities and secretly rule the city. The lords appear in public only when masked and magically protected from divinations and other forms of magic. Pergeron, the Paladin's son, is the open lord of Waterdeep, warden of Waterdeep, and commander of the Watch, and his palace is the center of Castle Ward, and it's the seat of government. Speculation on the identity of the other lords is a sporting pastime in Waterdeep. All that is certain is that they are competent and fair rulers, which is more than most cities can hope for, much less other cities whose rulers wear masks. The Watchful Order of Mages and Protectors. All wizards and sorcerers must join this semi-guild in order to practice magic in Waterdeep. Membership costs 40 gold pieces with no yearly dues. Members can purchase rare magical components and some magical items at the Tower of the Order, the headquarters of the guild. City Watch. One of two armed bodies maintained by the city from Castle Waterdeep, the Watch functions as a police force. Watchfolk dress in green, black, and gold uniforms. They are well trained and well equipped with leather armor, clubs, and short swords. They would rather talk problems over than use force of arms, but if fighting is required, they use horns to summon reinforcements. The City Guard. Like the City Watch, the Guard is headquartered in Castle Waterdeep. Unlike the Watch, the Guard is made up of professional soldiers responsible for defending the city, protecting the gates, and guarding important citizens and locations. Guards wear scale or chain shirts and carry short swords and short bows. In addition to the City Guard and the Watchful Order of Mages and Protectors, there are also the Walking Statues of Waterdeep. These are essentially 90-foot-tall stone golems. They stand towering over the city, stoic sentinels on an eternal watch. Patrolling the skies over the city are the Griffin Riders, an elite cavalry unit composed of the City Guard elite. In addition to all of this, Waterdeep has many powerful individuals who call the place home and will answer the call to defend the city in the event of trouble. One of the more notable of these individuals is Kelvin Blackstaff Aronson, one of Mystara's chosen. The Blackstaff is one of the most powerful spellcasters in the realms and one of the secret lords of Waterdeep. He resides in Blackstaff Tower in Castle Ward, and the massive imposing structure is one of the most recognizable in the city. As you can see, without even diving into the history of the city, there is a lot of character and excitement about the place, and over the years, many products have been produced detailing it. So, with so much out there, the question becomes where to start. So I'm going to detail those next. First, FR1, Waterdeep and the North, is really worth taking a look at. It's quite the accomplishment that Ed Greenwood managed to get so much information about the city in such a small 64-page space. But of course, he did cheat a bit. At the time, TSR wanted to detail the northern heartlands and the city in one sourcebook. Greenwood did warn them that the city itself was such a massive undertaking that it probably required its own product, and when he turned in his submission, it was way over the allotted word count, which is why the section on guilds has such tiny type. If you're an older gamer like me, you're definitely going to have to break out the reading glasses for this section. Included in this sourcebook is a poster-sized map of the city and a numbered key of 281 buildings, taverns, inns, guilds, government buildings, noble houses, and so on, though only a few of the places are really given any detail. Of the various sourcebooks about this city, this is surprisingly one of the most affordable, coming in between $20 and $30 on eBay or Amazon, or as a PDF from DriveThru RPG for only $5. If I was going to mention a must-have Waterdeep sourcebook, I would have to say that Volo's Guide to Waterdeep is it. Probably the best out of the Volo series. This is an intimate travel guide look at the city. It uses the same map and numbering system from Waterdeep and the North, but many of the pages have mini detailed street-level maps as well. Many of the numbered buildings are given detailed descriptions, which are frequently amusing and ooze plot hooks and potential storylines to pursue. Volo's Guide details what daily life is like in the city and gives the reader a street-level walkthrough so they can picture what it might be like to actually walk the city streets. And the wild nightlife is detailed as well. It's just rich, and on its own is a great read. A true gaming masterpiece. There's enough information here to keep the most avid group busy for years. Fest halls, taverns, shops, back alleyways, and more are given the full treatment in this 237-page digest format-sized tome, and really gives the reader a true sense of the city's character. Mechanically, there's very little in the way of game system mechanics, which means it's great for any edition of the game. The downside here is that it is not a standalone. You will need to get either Waterdeep and the North or the City of Splendors box set to go with it. But I can't recommend this one more highly. To get this one in physical form is probably going to cost you, however. I remember in the 90s the darn things were in every Walden bookstore you went in for years, and now they go for $40 or more on eBay and are currently unavailable on Amazon. A PDF through DriveThruRPG is only $5 though. I'd also like to mention the City System box set. I bought this as soon as it was released, and there was a time when the 10 poster-sized maps covered a wall in my game room. It's just massive, though the detail is amazing. It's also not very practical. I would only recommend getting it in a physical form for the completist. However, definitely worth having as a PDF. This set uses the same number keys from Waterdeep in the North and Volo's Guide, so it is completely compatible with those products. If the DM wanted to print out or project a detailed street view of a section of the city, this would prove quite useful. That said, you don't really need it, especially if you get the City of Splendors box set. Which brings me to the next product I would highly recommend. The City of Splendors box set. This is absolutely the most detailed single product you can get on the city. It has 4 booklets, a 128-page campaign guide, a 96-page Who's Who that details the NPCs of the city, a 54-page Adventurer's Guide that details the newly created Adventurers Quarter of the city, a 16-page Secrets book, and 6 poster-sized maps as well as Monsters Compendium pages. The city maps here are just beautiful and far more detailed than what had been offered previously. The downside here is that it is renumbered to correspond to the different wards of the city, though keying the same exact locations as previous products and a few more. Fortunately, the ward keys in the campaign guide gives you the conversions to previous publications, as well as telling you what pages that location was mentioned in Waterdeep in the North, Volo's Guide, and the Undermountain box set, to mention a few. Furthermore, there is an appendix with a cross-reference key for you in the back. It's really, really well done. I would go as far to say that this is the definitive reference work for the city, though I would still suggest getting Volo's Guide. Also, this one is expensive to get in physical form, running $70 or more on eBay, depending on condition and completeness. So if you see it on eBay cheaply, beware. It's probably missing one of the source books or maps. Which brings me to the 3.5 edition supplement, City of Splendors Waterdeep. I guess if you are running 3.5 D&D or Pathfinder, this is worth having. But otherwise, you can skip it. Essentially, you are getting some new prestige classes, magic items, and NPC stat updates for this edition of the game, but essentially there's really nothing new here from the box set. It's a repackaged rehash for the then new edition of the game. There is no poster map to be had here either, with a map of the city detailed in sections on individual pages, so I can't even recommend the map, because there ain't one. However, what I can say is that this supplement is readily available on Amazon at a fairly reasonable price, around $30. So if you can't get a deal on the box set, this might be a great alternative for you. Which brings me to a discussion of 4th edition changes to the city, which are quite extensive. I'll go into detail on what those are in part 2 after I've discussed Undermountain, but needless to say, I am not a fan of the changes wrought by the Spell Plague and the 100-year jump in the timeline, which pretty much nullifies everything from previous supplements. Furthermore, Wizards of the Coast never produced a source book for the city, but detailed the changes on page 194 of the Forgotten Realms campaign guide and a series of 6 novels: Blackstaff Tower, Mistshore, Dawn Shadow, City of the Dead, The Godcatcher, and The Circle of Skulls. Therefore, my suggestion is to simply ignore it and run your campaign in the Classic Realms time period between 1356 and 1372 Dale Reckoning. You could also just transplant Waterdeep to your own homebrew campaign setting, or put it someplace else. It is a cosmopolitan free city, so if you have a West Coast northernish area you need to detail, there's no reason you couldn't put Waterdeep there, though much of the flavor details are very realm-specific. And given the scope of the place, it is possible to run your entire campaign in the city itself. So leaving it in the Forgotten Realms, even if you are not a fan of that campaign world, is completely possible. Any way you choose to go about it, Waterdeep is a lot of fun, and it's richly detailed. It will certainly provide many, many hours of adventure. Well, that about wraps up part 1, and I'm going to go into part 2 next week, Undermountain, the premier mega dungeon. The place is legendary, and it is the underrealm of the City of Splendors. Part and parcel, they go together, so I'll be talking about that in the next video. Also, I still have my Masks of Narelith Hotep review coming up, and my full 5e D&D review, so please keep watching. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe for more content like this. And as always, my friends, may your D20 roll true, and game on.